Our speaker today, Van Jones, in case you don't know who our speaker is today, Van Jones, is all about bringing hope to the hopeless predicament we're in. People have asked me, hey, Van Jones, he's about the economy, he's about jobs. What's the connection with VNRC? Why Van? Why now? Van Jones has developed a brilliant response to the uncertainties and insecurities of the 21st century. And that answer is to say to the American people, don't wait for someone in Washington to get over gridlock. Help break gridlock yourself with your friends, your neighbors, your community by setting an example on the ground. Let the people lead. Van has made a compelling case for us to rebuild the American dream, to bring on the green jobs, rebuild economic certainty, energy security by putting America back to work again in ways that are sustainable and that bring hope to the almost but not quite finally hopeless predicament. So I'd like you to welcome the founder of Rebuild the Dream, author, attorney, activist, former Obama White House Green Job Czar. Here he is at last, Van Jones.
We're gonna have a picture made first. Hold on. Left at the altar again. I didn't know how to lift it up, so I just take it off. 50 years. 50 years. That's a long time. She mentioned the Beatles on television. You know, if a TV repair person from 50 years ago fell asleep and woke up today and went in your house to fix a TV, he wouldn't even know what the TV was, right? It would just be this black thing on the wall, right? He'd be looking for the TV. That's how much has changed in 50 years. But we're here to talk mainly now about the next 50. You know, Rachel Carson, 50 years ago, wrote a book. She wasn't the only person that wrote a book 50 years ago. I bet there was a lot of books written. But it stood the test of time because it was talking about something that was important then and is important now, and it marked a turning point in the environmental movement. A lot of books written, but that one stood the test of time. I'm sure there are a lot of organizations also that were started 50 years ago. But something about this organization let it stand the test of time, such that when we think about the next 50 years in Vermont, it's not a joke. Nobody's laughing when you say this organization will be here 50 years from now, and it will be making a tremendous contribution. Nobody thinks that's strange because of the role that's been played. But as we springboard to the next 50, let's talk about Rachel Carson really quickly because I think that opens a door. What was it that she did in her book that made such a lasting contribution? What she did was she marked the beginning of a new era in environmental consciousness. Up until that point, most environmental thinking and talking have been about conservation, preservation, keeping the best of our natural past and heritage. That's what the environmental movement had been about. It had been about creeks, it had been about rivers, it had been about trying to make sure we didn't pave the whole continent, right? That was what environmentalism was. And Rachel Carson, committed to that, also pointed out that there was something happening. It had to do with what was going on with our industrial present and how not just animals and trees and those things precious to us, our sister and brother species, were being wiped out, but also our sisters and our brothers, our children, were being poisoned by the way we grew food. The way that we were living was beginning to kill our kids. That seemed like bad news. And so she added to the conversation about conservation something we now call regulation. We're not just conserving the best of our natural past, we're regulating some of the downside of our industrial present. And that reinvigorated the environmental movement, gave it new language, gave it a new agenda. 50 years ago, there was no EPA, there was no Clean Air Act, there was no Clean Water Act, rivers were on fire. Los Angeles was so smoggy you couldn't see literally down the street. Just 50 years ago, she changed the conversation, and 50 years later, she helped to change the reality. New language, new consciousness, new legislation, a new reality in America. The time has come again. The time has come again. And as we go into this new era, we have to figure out what is the role of places like Vermont, the strongholds, the best, as the governor said, where the people have the most consciousness, the highest level of determination. What is the role of Vermont? What is the role of an organization like this one in securing the next 50 years? What are the challenges and what are the opportunities? I think we are now seeing a conflict of environmental visions that is become an actual barrier now to doing what we know needs to be done and what Bill McKibben and others have told us needs to be done. We have to go from conservation plus regulation to the next stage, which includes now innovation. Innovation. This is now the stage of the struggle where it's not good enough to talk only about preserving the natural past, as important as that is, and it's not good enough to only talk about regulating the problems of the industrial present, as necessary as that is. We have to start inventing the solutions for tomorrow so that we can have a 22nd century. That is the work that falls to us now. And that is the work that Vermont has been leading in and must lead in, because the last economy didn't just fail the planet, it failed the people too. And we have an opportunity now to build a new economy, and I want to talk about it. First of all, when we talk about innovation, what are we talking about? There are two possible ways now to build an economy that will work for everybody and will work for the planet too. The opportunity that exists before us is simply to do this. You have food and you have fuel. These are the two big systems that what we do about our food system and what we do about our energy system will determine whether we have a 22nd century.